All right, so tell me a little about the early days of when you start developing.
Mm. The early days, so what, a year and a half ago? Okay, so I started developing because of watching Quasi TV's stream, and yeah, that was pretty much the whole thing. I never really knew about game dev on Twitch, and then I was like bored one day. I was always like interested in game dev. Like I did RPG Maker here and there, like 2003 in front of like on PlayStation 2 in front of a TV in my parents' basement with like the USB keyboard and everything. That was a good time with like the giant. It was like a 500-page book that I never got through. I did that. I think I took. Like it was really sporadic. Like I never really actually cared about developing games. It was just kind of like I'm interested in the background behind the scenes stuff, and that kind of just snowballed there. But then I saw Quasi, and I was like, oh look, Unity looks pretty cool. I have no idea what he's doing. I have no idea how to. I still don't understand Quasi's code. No idea. But yeah, it made me get started in Unity, and then a year and a half to 2 years later, boom. Now we're here.
So did you do any programming before you started, or do you just like bam straight into game dev and programming?
Yeah, I have an obsession with learning. So
like we all do.
So some people, I don't know. Maybe some people don't. I don't know. But I have it's like a real obsession. Like if I'm gonna learn something, I go nonstop until I know what I need to know in order to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when it came to learning film, so I went to school for film and media and graphic design and stuff. So I was like the top of my class for it and stuff. Like I made sure that I was like that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know. So I was the same way for Unity.
So you're working on a game called Nightfall, and if anyone's in your Twitch stream, they know about it. But has this been your first game? Like, is this going to be your first proper release for a game?
It's the first real release. Yeah, the first thing I've actually worked on and haven't dropped. And I mean, it was kind of like the first thing after all of the tutorials that I did, and I'm like, all right, time to make a game.
Wow, that's impressive to have your first game to be like a major release, because like your Twitch stream gets quite a few followers and quite a few views, so it's quite rare to have your first game to be, I think, what's going to be a big hit. So
no, thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
Congrats, God, hats off.
Next Friday.
Crazy. So, from watching your Twitch stream, you design the game, you write or you code the game, you do all the art for the game. But what's your favorite thing?
All the art is subjective.
Yeah, well, you've had some help.
Yeah, a little bit of help.
So
nothing in game, but other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite sort of department when it comes to that? You a programmer?
Man, I just enjoy making games. Like it's kind of like it's not like, oh man, I have to go do this code with all of these functions and figure this thing out for 4 hours. It's so boring. I'd rather do pixel art. No, it's like, sweet, I get to go work on this thing for this thing. Or I have to tackle this bug. Awesome, I get to do that for 2 hours. Oh, cool, I have to go still have to make like 15 more weapons. Yes, like
so you enjoy
it.
You enjoy it.
Yeah, it's more of I enjoy making the game, as opposed to I like programming and hate art. I didn't really know how to do art that well before I started Nightfall, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna make a game and I'm not gonna hire an artist, I better learn how to do art.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how it happened.
So yeah, so I think that's kind of important, especially being in indie dev. It's all based on passion. So if you're not going to enjoy it, then why bother, really?
Absolutely.
So yeah, a lot of indie devs say, oh, we face problems, and it's sort of a big thing in the indie dev community that your first game or maybe your third or fourth game is never going to be really a big release. And a lot of people face a lot of problems, whether it be time released or maybe something happens with the project. Have you ever faced, or especially with Nightfall, like a major problem and or some that like sort of stopped development for a large amount of time?
I've never stopped development. Well, okay, let me go back and rephrase that. Before I started streaming, right? So I worked on Nightfall for maybe 6 days.
Okay.
Over the course of 3 weeks.
Okay.
Maybe 5 days over the course of 3 weeks, and then I was like, man, I suck at motivation. And my like the working on it was like, write a little bit about the ideas of the game and then go play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
For 4 hours, right? Or like, stop. You have to go in the other room. Or like, so League of Legends was a big thing that I played back then. So it was like, I could either work on my game or I could go play 6 games of League of Legends for 5.5 hours.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
And I was like, look, I opened up a script in Unity. Oh, I might as well save it and go play League of Legends for an hour. Like, that's the kind of stuff I did, right? I was really bad at motivation. I'm still kind of bad at motivation when I'm offline.
Yeah.
Like, actually really bad at motivation when I'm offline. And I was like, if I'm not gonna ever, because I wanted to be a game developer. I knew that I wanted to do something that I don't want to be somebody who is not forgotten. It's the wrong word, right? But like, you always want to do something in order to leave some kind of trace of you in the
legacy.
future.
Yeah. People remember you by.
Right, whatever it would be. And it could have been, I could have did it through a business. I could have did it through this. Nothing was really working. And then it was like, well, I really like making games. Well, what if I just made games, and if one turned out as a hit, it was a hit, and then, it is what it is.
Of course.
You become that guy who made Roller Coaster Tycoon or something. You know what I mean? Like, that nobody knows his name, but hey, he made Roller Coaster Tycoon. Or you become Toby Fox.
Oh,
right?
God. That's
Spent
the
2
dream.
years on Undertale, and he killed it.
That's true.
So like, that's the biggest drive for me now, is that I wanted something to, one, provide for my family, because working a $30,000 a year job was not going to do it. Especially when it was full time, it just wasn't worth it. I had left that in June in order to go full time as a developer.
Right.
And yeah, I mean,
so
it's literally just pure motivation to provide for my family.
Yeah.
Is the biggest thing.
Yeah, of course, that's with everyone.
Yeah.
So you've been full-time developer now since the start of June, let's say. You've been
June 1st.
Yeah, it's been your main time job. You've been streaming. What's the one thing you'd say to a younger developer of a younger version of yourself when you started, let's say last November or last year? What's the one thing you'd say? Like, I know myself, it would be sort of like, get things done first and then worry about planning them later.
Stop procrastinating and just do it.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing for me. Like, and you can see it on stream for me. I procrastinate all the time on stream. It's completely obvious. If you come hang out at my stream, I literally sit there and I'll stare at the screen, get distracted, tap on the in front of the keyboard on the desk, sing lyrics, look over at chat for 5 minutes, like, and then I might write 2 lines of code, and then, oh, hey, BlindFold Studios comes in. What's going on, dude? How you been? Right? Like, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
And then I look and I wait for you to respond instead of me typing, and then I'm like, oh, I wonder if he responded, and then you're like 8 lines up, and there's so much chat going that I need to stay focused on chat.
So, do you only work on Nightfall then during the stream, or do you sort of take 6 or 7 hours out of your day and just solely work on Nightfall?
I mean, I try to work on Nightfall off stream.
Okay.
But my wife also owns a jewelry business. Okay. And so there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of back end stuff that has to be done with that, like invoicing and packing and shipping and all the spreadsheet work. And we have a 1-year-old baby who runs around the house.
Of course, that takes up your whole day.
So that I left the intention with leaving in June was to spend time with my daughter at home and see her grow up. That was the biggest thing. Is that she just turned 1. I missed her entire first year of her life, pretty much, for a terrible job.
Well,
so I wanted to be home.
It's a good thing that at least indie dev and streaming can sort of provide that for your family, or hopefully can with Nightfall. Well, I'll be there to buy Nightfall at least.
That's nice. You don't have to do it.
So, I suppose, what's the best piece of advice you've heard? I know mine would probably be a Steve Jobs quote, and stay hungry, stay foolish. Is there any sort of piece of advice or quotes that have like really hit home, especially being a developer?
Don't try to figure out shortcuts.
Wow.
For things. When it comes down to it, you think of like, man, I could do this shortcut and it would save me 3 months of time, 3 months of work, right? Or it wouldn't save you 3 months of work. It would probably save you 3 days of work, and you'd spend the next 2.5 months procrastinating on it. But I think literally, I mean, when it comes down to it, is don't find shortcuts to things that you need to do. If you find a shortcut, it reduces the quality of your game. People know that it reduces the quality of your game because they see it if you stream.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And then they go, man, I don't know if I want this game because he cut corners here, and here, and it could have been better. He could have spent 3 more months on it, and it's not going to be worth it. Like,
Okay.
the whole reason we're going early access and not going full release is because the game's not done. I could have cut corners, made the game 2 levels, 1 weapon, right?
Yeah.
And made it a $2.99 game. No big deal.
But
People would have bought it still.
that's not
But it's
really
not the same.
Yeah, it's not fulfilling, especially from you. Like, I know when I release a game, it's sort of, it's the not just the relief of stress, but the like a, oh god, I did work really hard. You can be proud of it, especially if you haven't cut corners. It's something to be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing, especially when releasing a game, and especially when Twitch streaming it. It's fucking scary to see people look at your code. I know it is for me anyway.
Well, you start to get a backbone when people start to come in and they tell you, and I don't know if you've noticed it or not. People start to come in and they tell you how to write code
Yeah.
or something like that, and I'm like, hey man, when you write the code, you can do that.
Yeah, you do your way, I'll do my way.
I'm like, but until you're a sub, you can't tell me what to do.
Until you're paying me.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's funny.
Okay, so have you got a sliver of advice for young developers? Is there anything you'd say to young developers? Being
Man,
the
they're
oracle of wisdom
no.
that you are.
Well, the Oracle rules, the year and a half of programming experience, no college experience in programming. Oh wait, no, I almost failed a Java class in programming in college.
Oh, well, that's Java's amazing. Come on.
Oh yeah, I almost failed it, man. It was great.
Okay.
So anyway, the advice is, honestly, if you're young and you're still and you're able to get into programming at a young age, like you're younger than me.
Yeah.
Obviously, Paul.
Obviously.
It's just, I mean, I can tell. You don't have to tell me, you know what I mean? But I'm 27, so, if you're younger, you have so much time ahead of you to refine your skills that it makes sense to not jump into a full storylined RPG with full dialogue that's going to take you 5.5 years to finish by yourself just for 3D modeling.
Yeah.
Right, and there are some developers. You go into their stream, which it's completely fine that they're working on it. They do, you do you. But when you see your game and you see day 14, and you go and you see how excited they are, how much fire they have under them, and then you see them at day 715 when they're not excited about it.
Yeah. I suppose
Right.
that can be difficult at the same time, being a young developer, or just being young in general. To stick at something for that amount of time is not something that the millennial group is used to, I suppose.
Well, we come from now, I mean, at least this day and age, it's a very impatient society.
Yeah, it's all
Where,
instant
especially-
gratification.
Right. You have this, you have this need to be done, and then you have this needs to get done in this time frame, and you have this in this time frame, and then all of a sudden you have, you have your family on you while you work on the same darn game for 4 years, right? Come on, get this game done. What are you waiting for? And it happens for me still too. My parents, we go over there for family dinner every Sunday, and they say, "What's going on with the game? How close is it?" I'm like, "Next Friday." Leave me alone. like you don't even play video games. What are you worried about?
Yeah, exactly. It's got nothing to do with them.
Right. But it's just kind of funny. Like we come from such a we need it now mode that when you switch your brain to game development, you need to actually switch your brain to a business mindset, and instead you realize, hey, the work I'm putting in now is going to greatly impact the work I put in 3 years ago or 3 years from now instead.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different rationality, and like you have to actually think that way. And if you don't, you get lost with motivation. There's a couple people that I talk to who are younger game developers, and they're on their, they're 18 years old and they're on their 9th game, but they haven't released any of them for even an alpha test.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why do you keep switching games so much? Like, you can't ask those people that kind of stuff.
No, of course.
But you're like, so why are you switching games so often, man? And they're like, and I've asked one person, he said, I just lose motivation on it. I said, well, you're making games that are like, you want to make a Nuclear Throne-esque game, but you want it to be as big as Nuclear Throne.
Yeah, I think
It's not going to work when you're 17 years old, my friend.
A lot of young developers don't understand that these games take 4 or 5 years to make, with thousands of people working on them, especially AAA games like Call of Duty or FIFA or whatever you want to call.
Right.
A lot of people just expect. It's a lot of the YouTube people that are like, oh, you can make your first game today, but it's your first game. That's the point of it. Is your first game. It's not going to be an amazing game. And when people get into it and realize, oh, this game isn't what I wanted it to be, they scrap it and move on, expect the next one to be 10 times better.
Right, and it's you were always told make the game you want to play, right? Like, at least that's what I heard. I heard when I used to watch Quasi and Drunk Devs, and those were the people who I made my stream similar to theirs because they were successful, right? And if you're gonna be a streamer, always the biggest piece of advice is follow others who are successful, right? Quasi's really, really good at keeping an audience, and Drunk Devs is really, really good at interacting with chat. And the two of them together make a very, very unstoppable force. And if you can meld that into one stream, it works out really well.
Yeah.
Right? So I tried to emulate basically their streams to an extent without taking anything from them.
Yeah.
Although we're not talking about streaming, we're talking about game dev. So I digress. What were we talking about?
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm out of questions. That was quick.
What?
Okay, well, I should have way more than enough content here. There's 18 minutes of content.
Well, first it was 40 minutes of not knowing what I'm doing, and then it was...
That's true. That won't be the episode, though. It's fine.
Put a blinking thing on the bottom. By the way, Kras has no idea how to use Scope. Or how to use Skype.
Yeah, it doesn't even know how to say it properly.
Yeah, who cares, man? Use Twitch.
Okay, Josh. Thank you very much for joining me. It was... I definitely think that was going to make the episode a lot better. You rambling.
Dude, I appreciate that, and you absolutely rock. Thank you for letting me do this, and that means a lot, for real.
No, of course.